So what did I title this? A deeper dive into our evolution and human potential. Okay. So let me take a brief moment to connect. So if you're watching this and tuning in, I'm likely going to turn this one into a podcast episode. So taking one collective breath in, calling all parts of ourselves back to us, connecting to the present moment and exhaling. What is not truth? What is not present? What is not in authentic alignment? So with this group, I have changed the name to the Awaken Feminine Collective. It's been on my heart for quite a bit as I'm deepening in my understanding of why I'm here. And let me actually make sure. I see some people are watching. Let's see if, just let me know if you can hear me. That would be wonderful. And I wanted to explain why. Okay, good. There's people watching. Comment below if you can hear me okay. I wanted to explain why the change. And where do I even want to start here? So it's been a couple of years of seeking. And the seeking came from this place of initial just desperation, of wanting to feel, of wanting answers, of wanting clarity, of wanting to unlock more of myself. And now I'm in this place of seeking for the pure delight of it, and also with a deep knowing that I will never have the answers. And so there's a bit of like the surrender and the harmony and the peace within my being, that it's like, yes, there will always be more questions, right? Like each answer leads me to a new question, and it feels so delightful to be in that space. And this is my new Bible at the moment. The Gene Keys, Embracing Your Higher Purpose. And it's so fascinating how I look back on my life and the decisions that I've made from that were out of this, that were stemming from this desperate place, and how it's now much gentler because I now embrace the pain, because it's in the pain that leads us into the breakthrough, that creates the stillness, that allows for the spaciousness within to understand the deeper meaning of why we are experiencing conflict or polarity or hurt or a trigger or, some sort of emotion that is being conjured up within our bodies. And, when I first was introduced to human design several years ago, I was gifted a session by my mentor and beauty counter, and immediately felt like this crystallization of anchoring inside my body. And then I just kept being shown human design, and followed this path of geeking out on it and wanting to receive all of it. And if you're familiar with human design, I'm a 1-3 profile, and part of my role here on this planet is to have a solid foundation, to really have a solid foundation of why, of learning. Like, I love to learn and I love to understand. And that's also part of my life's work and my gene keys. And so what I realize is I've been kind of, in terms of human design, I've been disconnected from it for a bit. I've been feeling like my work with human design is complete. And it's been frustrating because I've had a lot of referrals, and it's mostly been through word of mouth. I don't really promote it much. And it's been a steady, income stream for me. And I always enjoy it when I do these sessions. And I just kind of started evolving it and including more of my intuitive work and my embodiment work. And you know, people are often left feeling affirmed, feeling like they have clarity, but it just was feeling like it didn't fulfill me in the same way. And so I kind of just left it. Now Luna's barking. No barking, baby. I'm going to put this on a podcast. Hey, can you be quiet for mama? Luna. Hey, hey. Distraction. UPS must be here. I'm going to mute for a second. Dog mom problems that can get edited out. So if you're watching live, thank you for your patience. So just this like deep trust that my work with human design felt complete, even though, you know, what's interesting is I notice when I love to have a solid foundation and I research things, it's like it's coming from this place of wisdom, not knowledge. Like knowledge. Luna, you're killing me, girlfriend. Please, mommy's working. So knowledge is right, is looking outside of self for answer, where wisdom is allowing what's presented to us in the external world to ignite the flame of wisdom that already lives within us. And with human design, it just felt like it was so effortless and it was easy for me. And I it's like I knew it before I already read it, because the wisdom was inside of me. And then I just was like, okay, I get to let this go and be patient and trust that if I'm meant to work with this tool, which is really just a synthesis of wisdom, a living transmission, that I will. So with Gene Keys, thanks to my girl Miranda, she was, a lot of people have told me, you gotta look at Gene Keys, and I never had any desire. And so this is what starts to be truly fun when you start to know, like, it's what you say yes to and what you say no to. There was no desire. I wasn't ready for it yet. And then Miranda had me on one of her live stream summits where I talked about, it was a human design and Gene Keys summit. And I started to have the itch. And then I started seeing Gene Keys everywhere. I started seeing the book pop up in my Amazon cart. I just started feeling this impulse that I was ready. And I bought the book, and it is a Bible. And I just started going to town, and I haven't put it down since. And what's interesting is I've had friends who have talked to me recently about human design, and they're like, I want you to do a session for me for Gene Keys. And I'm like, I literally just started exploring, and they're like, I want you to do my sessions. And I know it's because people feel that there's a connection here with my love and understanding of this wisdom. And, you know, these technologies stem from the ancient teachings of the Chinese I Ching, and then human design was comprised of that, and now Gene Keys is comprised of that. And so it's like the Russian dolls, right, where it makes sense, because what happens is once we start to unlock this potential within us, once the consciousness is shifting on the planet, right, there's an evolved form of what already exists, right? We're like expounding upon this living transmission. Gene Keys is very dense. It is so deep and so rich, and I cannot get enough of it. And I'm taking my time, where normally I geek out on things and I'm like, I go so fast through it first. I'm taking my time, and it's insane how much has opened up within me. And so right now I'm focusing on my life's work, and I'm focusing on my evolution and how they oppose each other, and how my life's work is connected to a thematic in my life around why I'm here, for my own evolution and for the evolution of this planet. And the question is always, how can I, like, what is my contribution to the greater whole? And what's fascinating about the Gene Keys and why I love Richard Rudd is, well, first of all, his humility and being student and teacher, and just being so humble about the fact that he didn't do anything, right? He just continued to come home to self and became a conduit for this amazing divine consciousness, this tool that's helping people come home to their authentic nature and to their potentiality in this lifetime and beyond. And truly recognizing the gift in our shadow, and how our shadow and our victim consciousness, right? How that, like, we can perpetuate these patterns based on these shadows, but the gift is in the shadow, right? It's like the treasure is in the trigger, the treasure is in the trauma. And I realize, right, like, that is what I love. Like, I love going deep. I love my discomfort. I love my tears. I love when I feel that resistance, because I know it means that I'm growing. And what's also fascinating is so much of my, and this is probably going to be a long live, and I'm just going to, I'm letting it come out because it's here. So much of my background in, biology and chemistry and physics is starting to come full circle. I'm like remembering classes. For example, I'm understanding the laws of thermodynamics and how I can apply entropy and energy to my body, to this planet, to the cosmos. And it's like, oh my gosh, this had to happen this way. Like, everything had to happen this way, of course. And science is now able to prove that we are no longer victim of our DNA, that we absolutely have the opportunity to change our DNA through our environment. And our environment is just not where we reside. Like, yes, there's a lot to do with, right? Where are we growing up? In what society? How are we raised? But also the mindset, the thoughts, the belief systems. And that's why it's, in our childhood, we're like sponges, and we create this conditioning in order to feel safe. And so it's like we come into this world pure, and then we have all of this conditioning that needs to happen so that we can basically in our adult life come back to, wait, those aren't my beliefs. Wait, I don't feel that way anymore. Wait, I'm not fulfilled in this job. Wait, I don't feel met in this relationship. I don't want to live here. I don't want to feel this way. And it is such a deep desire for me. Like, I have always been able to see the potential in everything, in myself, even when I didn't lack confidence, which is a huge part of my shadow, is lack of confidence and trust in myself. I still had the belief that I could transmute it. And I always see the potential in other people. And this is why I do trigger a lot of people. And this is why I've always been told by my friends, like, I never sugarcoat. And it's like coming from love, but being direct, right? Like being direct with an open heart. And this is why I love my client, Aileen, who says, I have a gentle approach to mentoring that is also no bullshit. Like, I'm not here, like, I'm here for all of our transformation, and it's all encoded in my DNA, in all of our DNA. And so I wanted to share, first, I think I'll share my life's work sphere is the shadow of exhaustion, the gift of resolve in the city, which is the divine essence of divine will. And normally by December, I'm like a puddle of mess on the floor. I'm burnt out. I'm just done. And I need until February in order of the following year to recenter again. I have never felt so centered like the way that I eat has changed, my sleep has changed, how I move, everything, how I move my body, how I'm showing up in my business, like the way that I work, the simplification of my life, things that used to bother me don't bother me anymore. I can't even explain like the level of groundedness. And you know, when I was going through my like one initiation or one form of my awakenings over the last couple of years, that really started probably at the beginning of 2020, or I say at the end of 2019 and into 2020. I think the beginning of 2020 was when I really said yes to it, to this path. You know, now I don't even remember what I was going to say about that. So, oh, I know what I was going to say. When I started on this journey, right, it was like, I knew that I had no other option, but I was fumbling through it and it was exhausting. Like it was truly painful and uncomfortable. And I didn't believe that I could have a connection to spirit in the way that I do. And I was like, oh yeah, those people have that, but that's not for me. That's not for me in this lifetime. And it's all connected to exhaustion, the overworking, like the archetype of the unhealed masculine within my being was truly severing my connection with God, with my connection with my divinity. And so it's taken me 2 years of truly trying it on, experimenting, getting dirty, getting down in the trenches to be right, because the programming is so deep, and the grace that is required and the compassion that is required to truly allow to unlock that potential within us, like, because there's a lot of cobwebs and there's a lot of muck that's in that shadow. And so now what I've recognized is, okay, I'm coming into harmony again with the archetypes of the divine feminine and masculine within my being, which we all carry. Therefore, my shadow of exhaustion is, I don't feel exhausted anymore at all. Where it's so hard to explain, but there was also this over consuming, because I was so exhausted. This is why my relationship with food and alcohol and working out and working, like I was like using these outside forms of energy to fulfill me and sustain me, and that's why it was always fleeting, and that's why I never felt full, and it was exhausting. It was like empty calories, like empty fulfillment. And so the more I started to, and I literally just learned about this, like, and this is how, when you truly follow the whispers of your soul that become louder and louder and louder, it's like, yes, it all makes sense now. It's so affirming. So because I went there and I just kept coming home to, I don't want to be tired anymore, and I know that there's something here for me that I get to unlock. I get to feel good. I get to love living in this body, and I get to help others through my own transformation, through simply being who I am and embodying that and radiating that into the world. And so resolve comes from deep relaxation. Resolve is the gift of the exhaustion. Once I start to transmute and meet and not make myself wrong for it, and let go of the judgment and synthesize with, holy shit, this is where I am. I accept this. And what more is there here for me? What's underneath that? And I keep seeing, when I'm outside, and I've been working outside, I'm in my back porch right now. I've been just out here all the time in my backyard, and I'm watching these hawks and these birds just glide for what appear to be miles. And that's how I feel. I feel like there's no efforting anymore. It's just, I engage, like I surrender, and I engage in my surrender, and I'm able to just sustain for like what feels like eons. And it's the best fucking feeling. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I can help people come home to this, like, oh, like I want to be of service in this way. The world gets to feel how I feel. And then through that is the divine essence, the siddhi. It's a Sanskrit word, siddhi, S-I-D-D. I think it's S-I-D-D-I-H-I-H. I can't remember how to spell it. S-I-D-D-I-H, maybe. It's the divine essence. So it's like when I meet myself in my exhaustion, like really get underneath, what is this? Like, what is this exhaustion? Where is it coming from? And I begin to look at it and be in it and feel it and like get inside of it and just be in relationship with it. The resolve, it's like the deep relaxation, the pause, the space, everything that I've been embodying, especially in the course of 2022, is now unlocking the divine will, which is like my desire to show up and to serve in my divinity as a human, you know, like on this soul journey in human form. And so it makes so much sense that as I continue, like it started with me looking at it, acknowledging it, then beginning to accept this exhaustion, which then allowed me to begin to resource like replenish and feel resourced again from this deep place of life force energy, which is now unlocking my connection with the divine inside of me. And it's only allowing me to have more faith and trust in humanity, in this planet, in our evolution, and why we're here. And I'm having so much more fun. So that is what I radiate into the world. So that right there, is it 40? Hold on, let me look. So yes, the 40th gene key, the will to surrender. So the shadow is exhaustion, the gift is resolved, and the siddhi is divine will. So that's like my life's work. That is like, it's not what I'm physically doing, but it's the texture and the quality of everything that I do. And I feel that now, like everything that I'm teaching my clients, everything that I'm like truly embodying, that I'm sharing is that. And I know that I'm just scratching the surface. And then with the, there's pairings that happen, and there's so much science between like the codons of our DNA and like truly how we're able to unlock these codes. And this is why we hear people say like codes and light and shadow and polarity and feminine and masculine. And what I feel truly inclined to do is to simplify that even more and to create the solid understanding of like, oh yeah, there's literally like they're now able to scientifically show what happens like with photons in our DNA. It's literally like light, right? Like moving from carbon to light in our DNA through science, you know? And understanding like, oh my gosh, it's literally physics. It's just physics. And so even spirituality, like and part of the 40th gene key is there's this deep, like once you start to melt away, I'm like, oh yeah, spirituality. Like, I don't even know if I want to call my connection anymore spiritual. It's just what is. It's just universal. And I feel like there's this deep desire to touch more of humanity from a simplistic way, in a way where people can actually receive it, because it's like we have people who are operating at a very dense level of consciousness. That's where the majority of the collective is residing. And so for those of us, if you're in this community, if you're listening right now, right, there's an elevated layer of consciousness. There's a lot of people in between that are missing out. It's like we need stepping stones sometimes, like we need like building blocks in order to be able to receive and to acknowledge and to be like, oh yeah, I can, this makes sense. Oh yeah, I can dig this. My connection and communication with my own husband and my own family and their questions that they have for me, that I'm realizing like less is more and simplification is key. So I wanted to talk about the 37th gene key, which is about family alchemy. The shadow is weakness, the gift is equality, and the city is tenderness. And this is like truly what, like the quality, that like the main thematic that my soul came here to evolve in, and how the my life's work and my evolution oppose each other, right? Because it's in the shadow of my evolution that then catapults me into deeper surrender, into deeper transformation, into deeper understanding that then feeds my life work. So recognizing like the gift in the shadow. And why I love, I'm going to read a bit from this because there's a piece, the whole premise is around the divine, the rise of the divine feminine on the planet, and hearing it from an evolutionary perspective and from a place of neutrality, and how it makes so much sense that I've truly come home in my femininity, right? And that has, of course, to soften, and I'm no longer in that hamster wheel of exhaustion, right? So seeing how they feed each other. And so I kind of want to talk about this from a global scale, because again, we're all just right, our lives and our journeys are the microcosm of really what's happening for the greater whole. And so this talks about, I'm just going to read a little bit. So the 37th shadow is undergoing a major mutation throughout humanity that will only build in speed and frequency as we move beyond its old boundaries and definitions. It is because of this mutation that the entire social structure of our civilization is crumbling. Here in the West, the traditional family unit is experiencing a natural demise, and at such times, great social change and unrest is much in evidence. Mind you, this book was written a hell of a long time ago, like probably a decade ago. Because of this inner rebalancing within the human psyche, the fabric of our society is being forced to change. The repressed feminine side of humanity is rising up to the surface once again, and this is changing the basic patterns of the traditional roles for men and women. The uprising of the yin force, which is the feminine, is actually beyond gender, but it is also confused by gender. Many women today are under the impression the time for women is coming and the time for men is over. This attitude is simply another form of the 37th shadow, which always overemphasizes one aspect of the polarity. So this is important because I've always felt this, like this is the dissolving of the patriarchy, and it's also the dissolving of the matriarchy. And so when it's like the rise of the feminine is not women are taking over the world. No, that's moving from one growth edge to the next, right? So the feminine is rising to meet the masculine. We're not, right? And eventually the masculine is going to serve the feminine, which I will explain a little bit more, but it's not from a place of men serving women. It's right. It's the feminine is the embodiment of intuition, of wisdom, of feeling, of sensation, of heart, of slowing down, right? It's in the space, it's in the slowing down that we connect. And then the masculine is the action, is what are we going to do about it? How are we going to bring this into form? So that's the difference. And that makes so much sense for my life, like how the shift. So now, right, I am the embodiment of the masculine serving the feminine in my life, in my being. And so that's my piece of, right, being of service to the whole, because I'm meant to, it's part of why I'm here. And also the lines, there's 6 lines in gene keys. And so again, I don't want to get into all the astrology, but right, there's a lot of technologies that are comprised of this living wisdom, this living transmission. And I am line 1 for my life's work sphere of the gene keys and for my evolutionary sphere. Line 1s, this is about aloneness. This is about being with myself. This is about trusting myself. This is about me creating something new. This is about me not looking outside of myself for answers. Not, of course I can have mentors, but everything's got to come from within myself. That's not everybody's role. And so this is why I've spent so much time in solitude, and why I have 0 followers, or I'm like following 0 people on Instagram, and why I don't have any coaches or mentors right now. Like, you know, Gene Keys, this was the first book that I've read in a couple of years. And this is the space. It's like, I'm not reading anything anymore unless I can feel inside my body that like, this is meant for me. Like, this is it. I'm ready for it. There's something here for me. And so I spent most of my life looking outside of myself for the answers, wanting mentors to tell me what to do, doctors, right? Like everything with my health, everything with why I even chose to be an engineer, never trusting myself, never having confidence, overworking. So everybody thought I was confident, but it's because literally like everything was rooted in my accolades, right? So it's like the more I achieved, the more like it looked like I had it together, and the more it looked like that I loved myself and I was confident, but it was all bullshit. And so what's amazing about this is there's so much solitude that's required of this path. And I have this affirmation of like, okay, Lindsay, through your own transformation, you're recognizing like, okay, I'm embodying what's truly happening on the planet. And I'm not the only one, right? Like, but this is my flavor through my genetic makeup. And the more that I can come home to this, the more I can unlock my potential and have more fun and have more joy and experience more of life. And the efficiency that I have, and just like my connection and the depth of my relationships, and it's crazy. And I realized how much I lost myself in relationships, like how much I used community as a crutch, food as a crutch, wine as a crutch, working as a crutch, friendships as a crutch. And now I'm like, oh, because of my aloneness and because of my trust in myself, I now have this ability to be the backbone of community and thrive in community. So, right, it's like, I see. I'm like, this makes sense, right? Like my aloneness is directly connected to my ability to thrive in community and to support community. And that also nourishes me. Okay, so I'll keep reading. The true definition of weakness can be seen when the feminine principle is witnessed serving the masculine principle, which is how the world has evolved and survived up to this point. Wherever you see the submission of the female to the male, you are seeing the 37th shadow in action, and it can result in only one phenomenon: exhaustion, the 40th shadow and programming partner of this 37th gene key. So you see how it played out in my life. And the way our societies are currently structured, many women may feel impotent, financially dependent on men, on account of having to stay home and bring up children. Of course, there are always exceptions to this, but it is a general truism. The pole shift that is upon us will see the reversal of this tendency, so the masculine serves the feminine. One of the modern reactions to this is in developed societies can be seen in the large numbers of women having to go out of the home to work, usually leaving the children in some form of care or institution. Such a phenomenon can only create more division in the world, since the ones who suffer are always the children. So, right, noticing like my level of understanding of this is how we play a role in the evolution of the planet, because, and it's okay, I want to keep going. I'm going to keep reading and then I'll share. The 37th shadow of weakness manifests both through men who cannot see holistically and women who try to redress the problem in only one way they know how: through entering the male world of hierarchy and competition. All such social issues, as these invoke strong emotional reactions from both men and women, as do the same issues when connected to religion. There can be no answers to these imbalances from the human mind. They are simply a sign of the transitional times that we are living through. Because of the emotional charge between the yin and yang, between men and women, the great signs of the 37th shadow is your identification with your gender in the first place. The real issue is one of yin and yang, of an imbalance between archetypal forces, not between their manifestations. There are always exceptions to the general rules, so there is always room for individual uniqueness. So, and it's so fascinating because it's like, I have this deep desire to step into motherhood. I know I'm going to be a mother. I know. I feel my spirit baby all of the time. And there's this sense of trust of it's not quite time, because now I recognize, and it makes so much sense why I'm having children later. And I believe we're going to start to see this more. We're going to start to see the shift in women having children later, because we'll get into that as well. But from a form of biological age and longevity, like I have no fears around my body. Like I know, I know that my body is going to be ready when conscious conception and the whole process of pregnancy and laboring and motherhood, you know, it's like I feel so different in my body. I feel so good. I'm so resourced. I feel so present. I'm so connected to like even foods and when I need to drink certain drinks and go to sleep, that, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, this level of connection with my femininity needed to happen in order, again, for my role in my lifetime of changing the true dynamics between family life and vocation and motherhood and the nourishment and fostering of the children that are coming in this lifetime that have a very different genetic makeup than we do, and to be able to foster that. And so we're going to see institutions and systems change, which is why there's so much crumbling happening right now. And again, my life of truly deepening in my awareness and my embodiment of the harmony between the masculine and the feminine within my being is setting me up for a beautiful, unconditionally loving relationship with my unborn children. And how that, like, I am an initiator in that way of the new paradigm. And I feel that. And so I'm not in a rush anymore. I'm not afraid of like all the bullshit that society is going to try to tell me about geriatric pregnancy. And so, you know, it's like, and so this whole going first makes sense as a line one in my life's work and my evolution, because I am here to go first. I am here to question. I am here to really go inside and share what's coming through from within, you know, and through my own experience. And I'm like now so excited to become a mother from this resonance, because it's like, oh my gosh, this is literally the future of the nuclear family. This is the future of humanity. This is the future of the evolution of the planet. This is the future of consciousness. And I'm so excited. Can you feel my excitement? Because it's my participation. And all I'm doing is honoring myself, honoring my life. Like, right, I'm not sitting here like, oh my gosh, I have to heal the world. Oh my gosh, I have to heal the children. I'm like, no, I'm healing myself. I'm healing my relationship with myself. I'm fostering this relationship within me that then is going to allow for the most beautiful opportunity to create life and to create an environment that I didn't have, that my mother didn't have, that her mother didn't have. Just right? Not anyone's fault, just because of where evolution was on the planet. And so there's this place of neutrality that happens. Like, you know, it's like the gender thing, you know, it's like, I really don't care. You know, it's like, I've never felt like attached to pronouns and all of that. Right. But it's like, I understand why some people do. And I understand why there's a lot of triggers and there's a lot of emotional charges related to gender, because we went from a very constricted view to we're now moving to a more individualized view. And in that, it's messy. In that, there's growth edges. In that, there's extremes. And so this is why I'm like, yeah, it's not the awakened woman. It's the awakened feminine. It's the archetype of the feminine that resides within every human that is rising, that is awakening within us, so that the masculine can serve the feminine, which is actually what is in true harmony. And it's what's going to allow the family life to be more in harmony, the work life to have a deeper understanding, to have more compassion, to be able to have conversations with people, to be able to create solutions without all that charge. And so that's why I changed the group, the group name. And I've been feeling it for a bit. And, you know, I've felt that like I'm going to work with men. I've worked with men a little bit. And it's like the feminine is rising in all of us, like even my husband, and creating a nourishing environment for him to express and to feel his emotions and to be in relationship with his sensitivity, right? It's like the unhealed feminine, right, in our male counterparts, just like we have the unhealed feminine, the unhealed masculine in all of us. So it's like meeting all of that shadow in order to come back into true synthesis of why we're here. And so I don't know what the future of this group holds. You know, this group for a long time served as a place to feel safe for me and for all of you. But I'm feeling that resonance is starting to just dissipate, and the group can be whatever we want it to be. Like, I'm unattached, but you know, I'm sharing more publicly. The podcast, you know, this will likely get turned into a podcast episode. So, you know, the podcast is really where I go deep on a lot of this introspection and just sharing more. And so I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, and I'm feeling drawn to eventually allowing really anyone in this group that's a conscious being. But I'm not quite there yet. Like, I just for now wanted to change the name and explain why, and I really believe, so Richard Rudd, who, you know, was a conduit for this transmission of the gene keys, I feel like there's something here that I meant to leave for the collective as a part of my life's work. And it could be when I'm 80 years old, it could be next year. And the importance of that, like how much this book and these teachings of innate wisdom have changed my life in just the few short weeks that I've been, you know, like receiving and like drinking the nectar of it. You know, it's like there's something that I'm here to create from the depths of my being, and I feel it, and I'm unattached to when or what it looks like or how, but all I get to do is just to keep showing up. But that level of responsibility and like the destiny of, yeah, it's encoded within my DNA. What a gift that I get to leave the world with and feel so delightful in the process, and create this beautiful family structure that then becomes the precipice of, you know, like future generations. And through my own learning and experience and being messy and experimentation and trying things on, because experimentation is also a huge part of what's encoded within me. And that just feels so good. So I don't know what's in store for me, if I will start, you know, I've had people ask me to start doing, you know, gene key sessions for them as I'm playing in these realms, because it does feel like once I read about it, I'm like, oh yeah, and it just like connects and clicks. I don't know if I'll use it in my work, but it feels like I'm just going to keep leaning in and applying it to my own life and supporting friends and loved ones and clients with it. But, you know, it feels like there's something connected to our potential and not being victim, right? Just like not being victim to the astrology, to what's going on in the cosmos, not being victim to the cosmic weather, not being victim to our environment, not being victim to our genetics of like, oh, my mother was this and my father was that, and like being predisposed to these genetic conditions. Like, I can feel inside my body our potential of how we can literally change anything. Like, truly becoming supernatural, truly healing, like miraculous healing. And this is that level of like, I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid of disease. I'm not afraid of war. I'm just not afraid anymore because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much potential here that we get to unlock. And still feeling the humanness of like when we lose people to disease or to war, or in general, when we lose people too soon, like, yeah, feel that, be in that, be in relationship with the finitude of our life in this body, in this lifetime, right? It's like, I'm not afraid to die, but what I am afraid of is like truly not living my potential, truly not leaning in to who I came here to be and what I came here to embody. Like that actually is what scares me more than anything else. And that fulfillment, that level of fulfillment, and that's what I'm afraid of more than anything, is like, limiting myself. So it says that my connection is unstable, so I'll leave it at that. But I did have a very mystical experience last night in the middle of the night, and maybe I'll share that because it was pretty profound, and it involved my friend Kate, and I woke up at 12:12. Anyways, I don't want to get into it because I think I want to be with it for a little bit longer, but I do want to share it eventually, because I feel like when I share some of these mystical experiences that literally you can't make up, the synchronicity, the mysticism, the magic, the miracle of like, holy cow, I cannot believe it happened in this way at this moment in this time, and being able to experience it with somebody else, to affirm every once in a while is fun, and to play in that space. So maybe I'll come in with another video sharing more about that, because my dream state has been pretty fun lately. Anyways, I haven't checked to see if there's been any comments. I've just kind of been wanting to share from the heart and not have any distractions, but would love to know what's opening up for you, and would love to hear if you're familiar with the gene keys. I would just love to hear if this lands. There's so much more in the 37th gene key, even with the myth of Christ and Christ's beloved Mary Magdalene, and just like the tempering of sexuality, just like so much of the feminine is in like the dark feminine too, and like the cosmic womb and the darkness and like all of it is coming back online. And I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. So yeah, just share if you want. Send me a love note privately. I love getting emails and messages from you. Keep them coming. I don't know, there's times where I feel like that's part of my evolution, is truly like this lack of confidence and trust in myself. So it always helps my the human part of me that questions every once in a while, although the questioning voice is getting fewer and far between and a lot less loud, but it still always helps to hear what's landing for you. So comment below, subscribe to the podcast, rate and review on the podcast. It just continues to spread the love, and that's truly what I love to do, and what warms my heart through my own experience. All right, much love. Thanks for listening.